Hi there, welcome. I am Danelle. If you're new here, I have been a painter for about 40 years. I'm trying all kinds of new techniques and mediums, ideas. And today I'm going to take you through a painting that I did based on a watercolor sketch I did yesterday. I brought the watercolor sketch home, I had a photo of what I painted, and then I painted it a little bit larger in oils, and then I'll show you what I did when I decided I didn't really love how the composition looked, so I think it's a little better now. So come along, you can maybe get some inspiration in me kind of stumbling around, trying some new things, making some corrections. So let's go, I'll show you what happened. Here's the watercolor sketch I did yesterday. And here is my palette that I'm working with. And then I start the sketch just with some thinned down ultramarine blue. I put a ground on the canvas board with a thinned down acrylic. I think that was burnt umber, possibly yellow ochre. I can't quite remember. Then I just start blocking in the darks. I think that's just a little bit of cadmium red. Some ultramarine, and I'm getting a little yellow ochre in there. Get the water. The water is very clear, but the rocks under the water are very warm, kind of an orangey sort of color, so the water has a definite, very warm tint to it. So I'm trying to get the reflections, the green reflections of all of those trees in there. And then that bridge, the bridge is what caused me problems later. So I do all my underpainting with a brush, and then the palette knife will come in a little bit later. I had the most fun with those trees in the background, just trying to get a dark block in for all the shadows. I'm using the photo that I took on my phone as a reference. That I had just painted the watercolor the day before, so the in plein air scene was pretty fresh in my mind at this point. And there's some distant, I think they're spruces way in the back on the right. Trying to get a sort of brighter color for the limbs that are, and the leaves that are catching a little more light. It was a completely overcast day, so there's no bright sunlight. Everything's pretty soft, which is like most of our days here. We're in a rainforest, so our clear sunny days are few and far between. I think it's mostly ultramarine and white up there in the sky. I'm trying to use the alla prima method of just kind of cutting in to those, very simply into those leafy areas. I've become very enamored of that approach, sort of an impressionist, brushy, kind of simple and fresh approach, so I've been trying really hard to accomplish that. I haven't done that much landscape painting over my long time of painting. I mostly painted animals, so I've been kind of trying a lot of new things at once: alla prima, impressionist, and landscapes. I hike every single day, every single morning, so it's been fun to go out and do some watercolors, some pen or pencil sketches. Mostly, I really like taking my little watercolor kit out. It's very simple. If I make a mess, which I pretty much always do, it doesn't stain out my outdoor gear. I've been enjoying my oil painting with my pochade, but I just have a hard time with making a mess. And so I do have a little bit of oil painting on my nice outdoor gear. So I need to learn to be a little bit tidier. So now I'm really having fun. I loved painting these trees with a palette knife. I had never painted with a palette knife before. I just bought this palette knife. I don't know, I've had it maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and it's much more suited. The shape is much more sharp, so it's much more suited to painting. So I was having so much fun painting like this. One thing I liked about it is that you could change colors a little more easily because there's not color embedded into the bristles. So you just do a simple wipe off and you can switch values, you can switch hues, and so that was really fun. I loved doing this. I want to do more palette painting, palette knife painting, sorry. I really love the way those trees turned out. So just trying to get the hint of some of the trunks and the branches. Those trees were mostly red alders. They're one of our few deciduous trees here in Southeast Alaska, and they grow prolifically alongside, this is an old logging road, and they grow alongside anywhere where the soil's been disturbed. They like kind of rocky, disturbed soil. They grow like weeds here. People use them for firewood. Some people use it for carving. They actually put nutrients in the soil. They have nodules on their roots that put nitrogen back into the soil, so they do have benefits. They're not very long-lived. Apparently they only live about 60 years. So I'm also having fun putting the grass in with the palette knife. Oh, that was so fun. The only thing I really struggled with the palette knife was the bridge and the reflection of the bridge. You'll see that. You'll see that later. That's why I had to paint it. I didn't have to, but I decided to try again the next day to improve it because the bridge was problematic. Trying to get a few darks there in the grass. Get the shadows. You can kind of see my reference photo there off to the right. I'm trying to get some of those shadows in the grass that you can see there. I need to figure out how to keep my phone from going to sleep while I'm painting. I don't like touching my screen while I'm painting. But I have to touch it to keep the screen on, so I need to figure out how to do that. There has to be a way to do that. So I'm trying to be loose with the palette knife here. It just didn't work as well on the bridge as it did the trees. Part of it is that my drawing was a little bit off with the angle of the bridge and the angle of the bridge's shadow. So I come back the next day. I think I adjusted this water down here too the next day to give it a little more space. Go back in the sky a little. I'm really loving the top part, so I keep going back up there to do things. And the grass. Really tall grasses right now. So then I start getting the reflection of the grasses in the water. This is a very shallow creek that feeds into a lake that we walked to that day. We just decided that the creek was a little more interesting for drawing and painting. I was with my friend who's learning to draw. So he was doing a pencil sketch while I was working on the watercolor painting. So I'm getting the color that comes through those orangish sort of rocks. And I was trying to figure out how to still make it look like water with reflections with that very warm, non-water type color. That's kind of a challenge. All of our water looks like that here. The rocks and sticks that are underwater are very brown. There's a lot of tannins in our water that wash out of the trees. So it makes the water look, it's clear, but it looks very brown. Putting some of the more of the tree trunks in there. Some of the alder's trunks are fairly white. Sometimes visitors think that they are birches. Just trying to get a little hint of that in there. I could have painted those trees all day. I was enjoying them so much. It would be kind of fun to try to paint like an animal portrait with a palette knife. Maybe do the same thing, do an underpainting with the brush, and then finish it up with the palette knife, kind of like I did here. I'm back to the brush, as you can see there. And I'm still trying to get some dimension in there to make it look like a bridge with a reflection. It just wasn't sure what was going wrong. That is a great piece of advice, though, is sometimes when things just aren't really working, to step back. Sometimes you can take a photo of it and you'll see what's wrong. Sometimes you can look at it in a mirror, maybe even look at it upside down in a mirror. What I did this day was I just put it down for the day, and when I came back to it today, I was able to see what was going on. And here I am the next day. This is me this morning. So I just scraped off all of the paint with the bridge, and that was on the bridge reflection, trying to get my drawing a little better. I didn't quite have the angles right. Underneath the bridge, it's supported by these big metal I-beams that has kind of an interesting shape to the right. It's wide on the left and it narrows on the right. So I'm trying to get a little more accurate drawing in there. Turned my saturation back up on my reference photo so I could see some of those interesting, has this kind of rusty reddish color on the metal I-beams underneath. And the railings are this very weathered, big beams of wood. There's like 2 railings. And then there was a little patch of grass and a little bit of sandy, gravelly stuff back under the bridge, kind of on the other side of the bridge. Just trying to get a hint of that in there. Just kind of seeing what works and what doesn't. Getting a little reflection there of the reddish color of the I-beam. There's a little patch of grass back there. Get the reflection of the grass. Just fixing the drawing on that bridge did help a lot. I wouldn't say it's still perfect. Right now it's pretty stripey. So then I tackle the reflection again, trying to get that drawing better. Decide to brighten up the bridge even more. There you can see my reference photo even better on my phone there. I think I turned up the saturation. I had started with it I turned the saturation all the way down so it would be black and white. Then I decided the composition would be improved if I lifted up the sky reflection so there's not so much of that greenish brown down there. I was using cerulean here. I used mostly ultramarine in the sky, but I decided to use the cerulean down below to kind of pull it forward. It's a little more brilliant. I decided to really go crazy with the grass. I think that helped to push that into the bridge back a little bit and show how it goes into the grass. the trail continues, the bridge goes over, and then the trail continues down to the lake called Talbot Lake. So just trying to get that foreground looking a little more unified with the value, brightening up the value a little. I think that really helped to create some more depth so that the reflections that are under the bridge are darker than the reflections there in front, so I think that helped. So here I'm just brightening it up a little, getting a little more brightness in the beach. I think I've got a better sense of depth and brightness in the foreground. Anyway, thanks for joining me on this painting journey of fixing some problems. And here's the finished painting. I hope you enjoyed that little journey through painting with a palette knife and how I attempted to fix some mistakes and try some new things. If you've been trying new mediums and if you have ideas on how to paint better with a palette knife, if you are experimenting, I'd love to hear about how it's been going for you. And if you want to see some of my paintings, some of my older oil paintings, I'm putting some newer ones on there, check out my website at danellekelly.art. Thanks for stopping by, stay creative and have fun.